Good morning, everyone. So welcome to the panel discussion on, okay, I have to remember the title. In the year 2050, because we are not here yet, but in the year 2050, so I'm trying to take you to several years ahead of us, 2050, and to really discuss about the future of work in terms of who works where and what type of work that we do. So this is a panel discussion that UNFPA, Maldives National University, Pensions Office, and Maldives Bureau of Statistics jointly organizing. My name is Shadia, and I am currently the head of office of UNFPA Maldives Country Office. And together with me, I have an esteemed panel. I'll introduce them because, I have to refer because they carry a lot of experience and expertise. So on my immediate right, I have Dr. Ahmad Inaz, who is currently the chairperson of the Pension Office. And Dr. Inaz is an accomplished professional. I'm sure you're aware because he's also part of the MNU with a diverse background in finance, economics, and public service. Currently serving as the chairperson of the Pension Office Board. He brings a wealth of experience from his previous job and with an extensive career that spans various positions of leadership in the government. And Inaz has played a crucial role in initiating significant reforms in the Maldives. Most notably, he led the introduction of key policies such as the goods and services tax, business profit tax, and the groundbreaking national health insurance scheme called Asanda. So, looking into the topic, I'm sure he can contribute his wisdom and experience insight with us today. And on the far left, Ms. Shujata Halim, she's currently the Chief Executive Officer of the Pensions Office. And as the CEO, with over 16 years of experience in social protection reforms, pension policy and administration, and governance. She has led the formulation and implementation of pension policies, strategic planning, and organizational restructuring at the Pensions Office. Prior to her current role, she played a key role in establishing Maldives Pension Act and introducing the current pension system through World Bank's Pension and Social Protection Administration project. She has represented the pension fund and social protection sector in national and international platforms and previously worked in senior roles at the Ministry of Finance and Disaster Management sector. And on my far right, Ms. Aishat Shahuda, she is currently the Deputy Chief Statistician at the Maldives Bureau of Statistics. Her current responsibilities lie in the leadership and management aspects of the Bureau as well as in the development of the national statistics system. During her time in the Statistics Office, more than 30 years, she has gained practical experience and knowledge in different aspects of official statistics. These include planning and implementation of censuses, surveys, strategic planning, and legislative framework for national statistics and management and coordination of national statistics system. Prior to the ratification of the Statistics Act in July 2021, she served as the Chief Statistician of the Bureau. She has also been active in the International Statistical Committee. Currently, she is chair in the ESCAP Committee on Statistics and a member of Paris 21 board, And at present, she is the co-chair of the UN's network of economic statisticians. Welcome. And on my right, Dr. Hussein Niaz. Left. Dr. Hussein Niaz, Secretary, Economic and Development Cooperation at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. He is a profession in fields of diplomacy, demography, and development, triple Ds. And he's experienced in planning and execution of large-scale data collection analysis, such as the census of population and housing, and various population surveys, analysis of population and social statistics using statistical programs. He has worked in leadership positions in wide-ranging areas, from mobilizing and directing international aid for national social and economic development, managing and coordinating donor-funded development projects at the national and local levels. He is also well exposed in the field of socio-economic development, both at the national level as well as regional and international levels. And I have to say he's participated in international negotiations in the formulations of the SDGs and the Agenda 2030. So he's one of the key members who actually contributed to the Global Development Agenda 2030. So welcome, panel members. So today we will be talking about the topic taking us to 2050 to discuss about who works where. And I'm sure, when I started work at UNFPA, the most important reference document was the International Conference on Population Development, ICPD's Program of Action, and that took place in 1994. And that was a milestone conference where statistics, people weren't regarded as statistics but human rights into population counts, single individuals, single parents, different types of families, grandparents were taken into consideration in the program of action. And since then, we have seen marked improvements in several demographic indicators, including the reduction of infant mortality, maternal mortality, access to education, as well as empowerment of women. And this is also the case in Maldives too. We have had significant advancements in population development. Nonetheless, despite these aggregate gains, there are still visible disparities and also emerging challenges. I think most recently, since we have expertise on censuses, and in 2022, the latest census that was taken place in Maldives, actually the findings, people are talking about it, even in newspapers, headlines recently. And there's also various sorts of thoughts going on around anxieties stemming from the findings, the uncertainty on what the future will look like, because one of the most important findings from census is the population growth rate is stagnant or not increasing as much, and most importantly, the number of children people are having is becoming low. So with all this uncertainty, where people are asking whether there will be enough people in the economic sector to serve in the economic sector, how are we going to address the migration? We have a lot of international population working in various sectors, and there are a lot of people migrating to the Greater Malé. So I think a large percentage of people have moved from the islands to Malé. So the question I have is to Shauda, to tell us about how are we going to address these issues, and maybe highlight some characteristics of the population now, and then maybe how it will be in 2050. Oh.
Thank you, Shadia. It's a pleasure to be here and be part of this panel. If we are talking about the population of the Maldives, we see that we have 500,000 population still in 2022, and of this, we have like 382,000 are Maldivians, and we have a huge chunk of foreign migrant workers who are part of the economic workforce of the Maldives. So we have, compared to the most of the countries, like we have a small population which is sparsely distributed across the archipelago of the Maldives, like we saw this morning from the geography of the country. So with the huge workforce that we have from the foreigners, like it's in one way an advantage that we have people who are willing to come and work in the Maldives in one aspect. And we have like in the Malé, the capital, we see, although there are so many islands, we see that 41% of the population are currently living in Malé area. So that is one of the huge challenges that we saw. The urbanization rate has increased over the years during these two census periods. And the population, it grew like 1.5% over this 2014 and 2022, the past 8 years. Then we see like Malay population is growing at 2.7%, and the administrative islands of the country like 0.8%. So if we look at the atolls, like we see negative growth rates in like Lamu, Gafalif, Gafdal, Nyavieni, and Vavu. Like we have negative growth rates. And over 60 administrative islands, if you look at the census data, like the population has, like Maldivian population living in these islands have actually declined. So this is the high urbanization rate and the population distribution. If you look at the composition of the population, we see like the among the Maldivians, like we have 26% are children, then, but we fortunately have a huge working age population right now, like so 69% of the population is 15 plus and in the working ages. And the elderly population at this stage is like 5%. But if we look into the future, like 2.5 decades we are talking about here, we see the projections are like it will increase to 14%. So the children in the population will be lower, and then the elderly is going to be increasing. But like we have still a huge window of opportunity, a demographic dividend in the country. So if we look at the youth population, we have like 67,000 around in 15 to 24 years. Then in the local context, we are considering youth as population aged 18 to 35 years. So in that age bracket, we have like 198,000. So, and then we have like Maldivians are 59% because there's a foreign workforce in this youth age. And looking at the labor force participation rates, like 64% of the population are either employed or unemployed, so that means they are in the labor force. And we have seen that difference in labor force participation rates for women and men. This is something that we have been seeing even in the past censuses for various reasons. And like unemployment rates are also like around, at the national level it's like 5%. But if you look at the youth, like it's around 15 to 17 years, it's around like in double digits, like 20%, 18 to 19 years, like 18%, so 20 to 24, 9%. And in some of the atolls like Adu and Adu city and these areas, we see like double digit, like 10% unemployment rates. So there's a need for job creation we see in the different localities. And if we look at the population, youth that are not in education or employment or training, the need rate we call. So in the case of youth 15 to 24, we have like a need rate at 19%, and it is higher for females. And if we look at the 18 to 35, the local youth age groups, like we have a need rate of 23%. And I think the most important thing right now is to try and make use of the youth bulge that we have, because it's not going to be there like all the time. And then like although we do not do anything much, like the demographic dividend is not going to generate its benefit on its own. So we have to try and invest on the youth and try to develop these employment opportunities for the youth, and also focus on the women to increase the labor force participation by reducing the barriers. So these are some of the things that we can see from the population census data.
We'll use this mic. Since this mic cannot be turned off, we'll use this mic. Thank you, Shauda, for highlighting some of the key findings from censuses. I am relating this to, say, for example, my family. Like, my son, youngest son, who was born in 2001, I asked him, because I told him I'm coming to this, and I told him we are talking about 2050. And he said, oh, that's a long way. And, he said he'll be about 49 years, almost 50, and I'll be old. So you are going to be talking about that. And because people, it's very difficult to really put the flesh on the statistics sometimes. So it is important to contextualize how that relates to you as individuals, as families, and all of that. So he was saying, oh, you might be dead in that case, because you would probably be in the 80s, but looking into life expectancy, he's probably right. And we have so much of non-communicable diseases and all of that. So he really, when you portrayed those statistics into a human being, this is the kind of thinking that we have to really generate. Because when we talk about aging, we are not talking about us anymore. We are talking about the current youth, young people. When they are getting old, that's where they will have the bulge. Now, from that, I have a question to Dr. Niyaz, because currently the fertility rate is also going down. And my son says he's not going to get married anytime soon. So can you please tell us about, with the continuous decline in fertility rates, how that will have an impact on the future of work or the economy in 2050?
In 2050? Okay. I think thank you, first of all, thank you very much to the MNU and UNFPA and everybody for inviting me to this very important topic. I'm very happy that this discussion is happening right now, because it's long overdue, I think, to sit down and talk about where we are heading as a population. And listen to the professor's presentation this morning. Now, if I have to say, if we survive as a country by 2050, a livable place, then obviously these demographic challenges will become to meet us. And as we heard, the fertility population growth rate is declining in this country. And I think most of us would know that this is not something that is unique to the Maldives. It's happening all over the world, except from what I have recently reviewed. I think the highest fertility rates in the world currently belong to 38 countries in Africa. So, and we are, I think in some ways we would feel happy that we are country that is on the path of development, and in many ways our social development and indicators are very well. Maldives is interestingly falling in a group of countries in terms of fertility. Like, for instance, if I look at fertility of other countries, Maldives is included in with Sweden, Scandinavian countries, and United States. In the Middle East, Qatar is one country, and some of the small island developing countries such as Saint Vincent and the Grenadines. So I think we can be also fortunate that our population growth rate is not, exploding. Now, before I proceed further, I think when we talk about population growth rates, there are people who would say that this is all the result of our policies of introducing birth control measures, advocating child spacing and all these things. But I think these were the things that we had to do, because I think without these sorts of interventions, we had so many other issues like extremely high child mortality, infant mortality, and maternal mortality. So I think with those interventions, we are very happy. Happily, we can say that we have overcome those. And the result is that now I think more women are able to go and participate in the education system, employment. So they are more, I think, liberated in a sense as compared to maybe 30, 40 years ago. So these are the advantages that we have. But the process of lower birth rates, as I said earlier, is a worldwide phenomenon, and we are also part of it. So now the challenges we are facing is because of low fertility for the past couple of decades, we are seeing a shift in the demographic composition, as was described by Shahuda. We are seeing more people living older because less communicable diseases, but at the same time we are seeing non-communicable diseases in our populations that we have to, we are able to, I think if we look at it carefully, we can address these issues, because many of these are controllable or changeable by how we do things in our daily lives. So these are non-communicable diseases that we can deal with if we do it carefully. Then the other thing is that we are seeing at the moment shifts in the youth population. As also said by Shahuda, we have a demographic bonus right now. I think most countries would come to this stage when there is a lower fertility, lowering of the fertility. I think what we can do right now is to take maximum advantage of the demographic bonus that we have. That is, taking maximum advantage means to provide them with different types of services, such as education and housing facilities, low-cost housing, and medical care, better lifestyle conditions. Yeah. For instance, if we provide free child care to couples, young couples, then that is also going to be very helpful. Free education, which we are, I think, already doing very thankfully. Employment of, family-friendly workplaces provision is something very key. That is something that would help for women to stay in the workplace longer. Right now, as we know, what happens is they join the workplace. If they want to have a family, halfway through they have to go home and stay. So their career is disrupted. And so there is a disincentive to go and work. Also, I think there are certain things like some unintended anti-natalist policies. We don't know about these things. So if we study properly, carefully, our policies and understand that these kind of policies are hindering couples to have more children, then that will also help us overcome this issue of low fertility. And also understanding other underlying health issues leading to lower fertility among our families, and provide care to avoid and overcome such situations. And also to instill in our youth a positive outlook on our future of the country. Because as we speak, we also see that a lot of young people are moving out of the country, sadly. And when they go for higher studies, they don't come back. So we have to find ways to pursue them to come back, because this is going to be a good place for them for their future. I think looking into the broader picture of how we will have our country, I think it's inevitable that we will have more, if our economy keeps on growing, that we will be forced to introduce policies or entertain more foreigners to come and work in this country. That is not a bad thing, actually, if we deal with it correctly. The important thing is that for our people to be employed in highly skilled jobs, and try to automate as much as possible so that we don't need low-skilled jobs as much as we are doing now. So these are the things I think that we need to do in order to deal with this issue. As we continue with this discussion, I think we can also look at more other issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Niaz. And I think coming from your discussion, I think transition into Dr. Inaz, I think you mentioned about international migrants working in the labor force. And when you really look into the tourism sector alone, there are about, in the tourism sector, around, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Riaza, 70% of the workers are foreigners even now. And then the policies are such that we are expanding, and we have 30% employed as Maldivians. And then Shahuda mentioned there is a NEET category, not in education, employment or training. So young people who are not productive or learning in that arena. So what is wrong? So looking into the changes that we are going through in the 21st century labor market, maybe I would want to, request Dr. Inaz to delve into a little bit more, because we are also automating. There is other things, technological advancements that are coming in, and a lot of young people want in different ways of work and all that. Can you please highlight about, for example, how do you foresee the culture of work in the future?
Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon. First of all, I'm honored to be here with such an esteemed panel members, and also among the participants I can see colleagues from different spheres that we have interacted. The topic is very, very heavy. It's a heavy topic because probably by 2050 I'll be very old. But I keep telling, just like Shadia, I keep telling my daughter that I would want to age well. I want to make her, while growing her up here, giving her education, I want to bring that resilience forth while we're doing that as a family. And I think policies, having worked at the policy level for a few years, what I see is policies becomes coherent and meaningful if those policies are built together through economic, social, and within social, as we can see, there are different aspects that has to be built in together, neatly knitted together, and then finally brought into the budget process, debated nationally, talked, and I think these kind of academic, multi-sectoral, multi-agency dialogue has to happen, and I hope that at MNU we will continue this dialogue, not only at Theveli, but through this dialogue only we could actually navigate or at least understand where we are going to be in 2050. Because the world that we have entered in the last few decades is uncertain. The world is changing in a systemic way. The global south shifts that is happening in terms of both economic and political power, the soft power as well as the military power, is something that we will have to acknowledge change. We'll also have to admit that there are technological changes, like Shadia said, that would have sweeping changes in our economy. So the changes, those changes during that time actually enabled us to start a new industry in the Maldives. That actually was, in my sense, it was not so much planned. The consequences were not thoroughly analyzed, evaluated. Have we done it, I think we would not have become so successful. So it's actually a messy, I'm actually saying what I shouldn't be saying, but I think, have we thought through all the process at the time, we would say, no, we're not going to do tourism. It's too volatile, things is going to change. So I think it was the vision at the time that brought tourism as we are today. A similar change is about to happen by 2050, whether we like it or not. This time, the change is that the highest number of laborers that comes from Bangladesh or India or Sri Lanka or any place that we have been so reliant upon, and we have become so comfortable, our industries have become so comfortable, are actually changing in terms of economic change. Two things are happening there. One, the labor force, semi-skilled, skilled labor force are going to migrate to the north, because it's becoming more and more aged. So that shift is going to happen more and more. So the demand for that labor will happen. Already it has begun, I think. Two, the economies of these global south economies are also becoming very, very vibrant, and the demand for labor is also increasing there. So therefore, our population that we have, we need to invest today in terms of changes that we need to bring forth the industries that we would want to see in the future. What does that mean in terms of industrial changes or economic changes that we need to bring? That means we will have to look through those changes globally that is happening, as well as domestically that is happening. We need to bring changes on economic transformation. To bring those economic transformation, we will have to bring changes in working style, workplace. We need to redefine our workplace. We need to look at, we need to admit the fact that that we are going to be a geographically dispersed nation. Although in an election year, we are already hearing two schools of thoughts. One, population consolidation. Other one is saying that we are going to remain those small pockets of islands with dispersed population, where we are going to then allow those places to become natural growth centers. But irrespective of that, I think it is important that we have to invest in terms of redefining the workplace, in terms of making our training, whether it is higher education trainings, much more result oriented in terms of what sectors do we want to train. Let's say, for example, we are training in business school at MNU, we are training business administration, we are training marketing, we are training HR. I personally think that is not for the future 2050. We need to redefine our curriculum. We need to look at it from a different point of view so that we can prepare our labor force for the coming years. So I think 2050, is it gloomy? Is it good? It depends on the policies that we are going to design today. But so much of it is uncertain. But we can actually make the future, our future, brighter if we at least start the dialogue and continue this dialogue. And we, as at the university level, if we can participate and keep the dialogue ongoing.
Thank you, Dr. Inas. I think it's up to us, right, to make our future rosy. Yeah. One thing for certain, even if the economic aspects remains uncertain, one thing for certain is we are going through an aging phase. And there will be more older people living in the country. And we were having a chat, just before this official discussion about, the need for connection, the need for, physical touch and that sort of stuff. But I am thinking that, this is the time where we have the largest numbers of people, about 40% of the population living in greater Malay area, and then also in layers on top of each other. We are so dense and packed right now, and it's the most dense period that I have seen the countries going through. Nonetheless, we are also currently facing the time where we are so disconnected. We don't know even who lives on opposite your apartment. So sometimes I wonder whether it's really the physical connection or whether it's something different kind of connection. Really, how do humans interact and all that? So in an aging society, obviously the kind of work is not only economical, there will be care work as well, right? Even now, the care work, majority of the work, nurses and all that, is carried out by foreigners. There is a big chunk of Maldivians, but when it comes to islands, maybe it's a different picture. I don't know for sure. But this is an area that we are getting into. So the next question I have is to Sujata, whether you will be able to highlight the culture of, say, care and social protection or social services that you foresee in the future.
Thank you. Good afternoon, and thank you for this opportunity. We've been talking about the population, the decrease in fertility rate, and the challenges that we have. Of course, this is inevitable and it is coming, and there is an opportunity now because right now we are moving towards the aging population, and we need to devise our policies or direct it to address the future challenges. With the fertility rate decreasing, the population replacement is not going to be there, and the number of people we have to take care, or the people that needs care, is going to increase by 2050, because we're talking about, we are saying that right now 5% is the aged population, and it is going to be about 14% in 2050. Right now our expenditure is about 4% on the aged population. If it remains the same, if we do not implement any additional services or any other policies also, with the current level, it's going to double by 2050. The question is, can we afford to? Do we? So I believe we need to think about how we're going to address this situation right now, and for which I think one big question is care. How do we provide care? How do we create opportunity for women to participate in the labor force? How do we formalize these things? One big, I think we are having our policies designed towards that, but I think we need more focus on care. How do we, can we just keep it within the government, or can we outsource it? Do we need to privatize it? Do we need to have, possible care other than the Guradu Markaz? Do we need to have centers and places where we can actually, not necessarily to leave our parents, but where, as a daycare, or where we can actually get assistance when needed? So we need to think about it in that way. And another very important thing is childcare. We need to think about how we're going to provide, how we're going to make it possible for women to get into the labor force and get, have a productive work life with not having to think about how the child is going to be taken care of. I think as women, most of us keep thinking, what are our children going to do at home after school? Who's going to pick them from school? When at home, what are they doing? I think this is a constant worry we all have. So we need policies, in such a way that we don't have to worry about all this during the work time. We need to have it taken care of. Schools should cater and know, every now and then picking the child, dropping, these things needs to be addressed within the system itself. Another thing I think I mentioned, about the expenditure, we need to, we have a pension system right now. Of course, I have to mention this. A contributory pension system was designed and introduced because we know as the aging population grows, it is going to be challenging for the state to take care or to cater to all these expenditures. But other than this also, I suppose the social security or the savings culture needs to be built within us, and we need to have sustainable policies where the social security system is well thought through and taken, contributed towards and used responsibly. So these are policies that we need to formulate into, and we need to address it now. I think that is one of the critical things in the care area that we need to think for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Sujata. And while you were talking, I was thinking, really, we have a lot of people who do work. How can we make this country operate through a lean, mean, efficient sort of system without really relying on too many people, but how can you make things more effective, be it in the economic sector or be it in the social side or even in the education or all these sectors? Because we really have to think about that, because even in the neighboring countries, they are going through aging, because their populations will not be available to come and serve in other countries either. So we really have to come up with a different sort of a model. And I'm thinking that, there is choice. There are 3 options for us to take. One is business as usual, or the second one is wait until something like the COVID or a disaster happens, so that we will unravel whatever that comes into and we will sort of adjust and move on. Or finally, whether we can take a turn for transformation, in tune with nature. And I'm sure earlier our professor in his keynote address highlighted that the whole world is warming, sea levels will rise. So how can we live in harmony with the world ecological sort of setup? So there are three choices that we need to make. Three choices we have. So two choices. Okay. Business as usual. Wait until in that the two. So very short, because I don't know the time. The clock is turning really fast in this 1 hour. Maybe somebody need to stop that. But very short, 1 minute each. Can you provide a solution to these choices? Maybe Inaz, you start.
My 1 minute. I think we need to look at what our young people really want and what do our industries want and what global changes, as I said before, is happening. I don't foresee our young people wanting to work when they finish school or they graduate, they wanting to work in government. I don't think they want to work in a cubicle day and night. I think they would want to work on the reef, perhaps reef farming. I think they want to work on drone technology, as I have said. I think they want to be part of the creative economy that the Maldivian youth really aspires to. We have the talent, we have the fundamentals in the basic education, the higher education, and so forth. But what we really can transform that into that future is we need to sit down, as I said before, make those changes through the various other different policies, like Sujata has mentioned about care working. If we want our female workforce to join, to be part and parcel of the development, we need to give those kind of flexibilities, those changes in the policies, not just say that for the sake of it, but real meaningful policies that can be evaluated after every 5 years or every 3 years, and those kind of adjustments can be brought as we drive through the different kind of changes that the world is taking place. I think those kind of policy changes can be brought only. Every consecutive 5 years that we find a government comes in with set of policies, they probably can't do that. And it's also very romantic to believe that we could actually submit a parliament, a bill or an act, and say that we will have a national development agenda that every party would agree and abide by. Believe me, the next powerful position within the parliament, they will throw out the bill. And I have seen that with the Fiscal Responsibility Act. I have seen with several other acts happening there. So I don't think that is the way forward either. The way forward is that we change as we go in, but the university with the key stakeholders could, including the pension office and other key stakeholders, could play a vital role with policy institute, where just like in Lee Kuan in the NUS, National University of Singapore, or at Harvard or any other top universities, where they have those policy centers who would actually engage with the policymakers and the academic or with the practitioners, and they have the dialogue. That needs to happen so that the policymakers are well informed and we keep going. Sorry, I took more than my 1 minute.
So pass it on to Shahuda, because she was talking about we really need to figure out a way to do things very differently considering the environmental challenges that we have. So maybe on that.
Thank you. Yeah, I think really if we are to learn anything from COVID, for me personally, I see we have already gone back to business as usual. But the vulnerabilities that we will be seeing, like with the high temperatures, the ILO is also predicting, a lot of people who are working in the heat, in countries the temperatures we have, it's going to affect the productivity. So there's a lot, and also if you talk about 2050, like the young generation, they are saying everything will be done through AI, so this chat GPT, and so that's what everybody is talking about. But countries are now trying to put regulations on how to best use artificial intelligence so that it is going to for the benefit of the population. Yeah, so there's a lot of this going on in the context, and we really need to, I think, look ahead and prepare and I think transform the country. Like, for example, for me personally, like, I don't want to, when I retire, I want to live in the small island near the beach. Where, so this is like a dream for me. Like, but what we see is everybody is gathering in the Male area. So I think we need to, when we go to some place, everybody is saying, you are from Maldives, you have such beautiful beaches. And then so, like, I'm just living within 4 walls and hardly go out to enjoy these nice places. Yeah, so I think we the young generation need to have more power to change this. I think we need to empower them. So, and try to I think. Instead of talking about what the government is going to do, like local councils, we have women development also, and so many things have changed. But I think people need to think more creatively, and then this research culture and all these things, like I think you can think about having like an island can be more environment friendly also. So we need some different, I think, products so that we have, I think, more younger generation want to work more flexible choices, I think. I think that's what I would like to say. Thank you.
So, your last
1 minute, okay. I think the first thing I would say is somehow give hope to the young people that this country of theirs, there is a future in this country. How we do this is, firstly, I think, give them the adequate, the type of skills that match the future employment opportunities. And the second thing is, I think, for the employment sector, to somehow, introduce measures to give preference to skilled Maldivians rather than to employ foreigners, maybe for advantages, several other advantages like low pay and high pay. These are the comparisons that people do make. Like if we employ a local, we have to pay more. So I think these kind of policies should be very strictly enforced. The other thing is, I think, introduce, good policies to provide family-friendly workplaces that would encourage people to be economically active, at the same time also have families. Other things like which I already talked about, housing, affordable housing, and these sorts of policies should be introduced. The second thing is introduce healthy aging policies and encourage people to go for healthy aging rather than getting into all sorts of medical issues as they age. And the third thing is introduce multi-generational, sort of intergenerational relationships that can be maintained as even when they move to housing and so on. So I think these are the things that I would say.
Thank you. Everyone's spoken about the policies, and I think we've covered almost all of it. I'll just share some experiences that we have had at Pension Office. Pension Office, we haven't gone back to business as usual after COVID. We've learned from COVID, and we've created possibilities that can be used. We have created an environment where people are encouraged to work. Right now, We have our entire IT team working from home in different islands. We envision our 40% of our staff at least working from home from next year. And there's this beautiful story that I'd like to share with all of you. When I was traveling, I met Maldivian who I actually did not know, who was telling me, when I said I'm from pension office, she said, you know this girl in your office, she is an IT professional. She had 3 children and she was about to leave the office. But because you all gave the flexibility that she needed, that is the reason she remained and she is still working there. She is one of the most reliable professionals in the institution, and I'm so glad that we did not lose her. And this flexibility actually gave the opportunity. She did not have anyone to take care of the children, and she was actually considering leaving the institution, which we did not know. Only when her friend told me the story, I came to know that was the situation. But I think unknowingly also we've done it's a huge milestone for us. And I think there are many of us who are in similar situations. In fact, even I was one, because when I had a child, while I was working in pension office in the beginning, I got a lot of flexibility, which helped me grow in the institution and paved way for me to learn and to come where I am today. So I think if we all have friendly environments where these things could be addressed, it is one of the biggest policy changes that we can bring. We need to not think that everyone's going to take advantage of the leniency, but give opportunity and see how it works out. And just to conclude, I think another very important thing that we need to address is for people, not everyone wants to be taken care of. We need to create opportunity for people who want to live on their own, or for people who wants to take care of themselves, the opportunity to do that. We need to have, ways that elderly people can walk safely on the road, have opportunities for them to meet and talk to people of their age, so that they do not feel left out in the society. I think these are few things we can consider. Thank you.
Thank you, and I think it's very good to end the dialogue with a positive, inspirational experience from pension office, and thank you for sharing that. And before I conclude, I also want to let you know, I have 2 sons, and they say they feel like going abroad and studying and exploring and all of that, thinking because I live alone, so thinking I might fall sick and all, for fear of that. But I tell them, I plan to live until 91. Very healthy, so they don't have to worry at all. I will do my best to remain healthy, and so that they can, reach their full potential. So I think reaching there, getting here was not easy. It's like, commitment every day to look after ourselves. So same way, if the whole country, every citizen looks after, not saying everybody will have the same fate as everyone else, but at least everyone can give that a try and love yourself, and also allow the next generation to explore their full potential, so that they can also bring back to the country in a positive way. So I think, to conclude, I really have to thank a lot of people, especially the Maldives National University, MNU. I have to name Rahi because one day, only not too long ago, 2 weeks ago, I just had to ring her and tell her, like, give us this opportunity, and within 10 minutes it was done. So MNU has been really facilitative in this, and thank you for that. Yeah, I'm sorry, the time that we've been allocated has ended. Our panelists have shared a lot of experience. But, I hope that, we can take questions as we walk along. But one thing I know for sure, that Maldives will not be the same. The demographic structure will be different, and the global changes and challenges, including the technological advancements and also the climate change, global warming, sea level rise, everything will make us, take different paths if we are to take the second option of transformation. Gratitude to MNU. And thank you. I really appreciate the esteemed panel members who we have, engaged, and they've been personally interested to share their knowledge, experience around the demographic transition that is happening in the country. So this is the second dialogue actually we've had on this topic, and we would like to continue this dialogue so that, and also document what we've been talking about and share it for policymakers. This is also the opportune time that we can make policy changes in addition to individual transformation that we would like to see. Thank you.